Welcome to the SolidCAM University channel. This video's topic is using one tool for both drilling and boring or turning. Essentially, in this video, I want to show you how you could use those types of tools that have a dual purpose, one that you can use for drilling and one that you could use to further do an internal turning or a boring bar or something like that. A lot of people have different names for these things. I usually think of it as an insert drill. It's basically a shank that has a drill kind of quality to it, a drill flute, and then at the tips they have inserts that allow you to do either just drilling or drilling and boring. So in this video, I'll show you how to use that type of tool that can exist as both types. And what we have here is basically just a donut shape, and in the center I have a 2-inch hole. Now, let's say I had a 1-inch tool that I could use as both a drill and a boring bar. Well, how do we do that inside SolidCAM? Well, got a couple tool paths to show us how we do that. So the first is just a simple drilling tool path, and I'm just drilling through the hole all the way to the end, maybe 100 thou past the face. I'm doing it to the cutter tip. I've defined the tool as just a 1-inch diameter flat. So for the angle at the front of this drill, I've told it has a 180 angle at the front. So it's essentially just a flat drill. In reality, this is my insert drill. This has just a 90-degree insert at the tip. And I program it just simply as a drilling operation. And if we take a look at that inside simulation, I essentially am just going to drill, and there we are. Now, this tool can be used as a boring bar as well. It can do some internal turning. Because the size of the drill is basically close enough that I can use a function here called center shift. Center shift is essentially just shifting off of the original drill axis. So in a turning drilling operation, we go right down the center of the part from X0 all the way inwards. Now, with the center shift, we actually shift it in that X direction slightly. So in this case, I'm using a 1-inch drill. I've shifted it by a 1/2 inch. That should allow me to finish our hole. So if I do a simulation on that, there is our original 1-inch hole. And I'm just going to step through this. You can see that the drill was shifted in the X direction by the amount that I put in there, in this case, the 1/2 inch. And I'm getting it to do pretty much a drilling operation, but because the tool can handle it, I'm doing it on the side there, and it's essentially doing a one pass of a turning tool path, essentially. So that is center shift. Now, that's when the hole is slightly larger than the drill, and you have the ability to kind of just shift it a little bit and just do a little bit of a larger hole. Now, let's say you had a boring bar insert drill combo that is not the size of the hole. Well, that's basically what I have here. So I'm just going to recalculate these, and we'll take a look at how I did that. So in this first operation, again, it is just a simple drilling operation. I'm going the same depth, but this time I'm using what I've defined as a 1/2 inch drill with a 180 tip as well. So this is basically the same sort of thing. This is a 1/2 inch insert drill. And I've just done a simple drilling operation like we saw before. So if I just bring that over here. So 1/2 inch drilled into that part. But now I want to use that same tool to do the rest of the hole. The hole is 2 inches. I've only drilled out 1/2 inch. How do we handle that? Well, let me open that up. So again, I have a turning operation using the same tool. So this is still tool number 1 as far as the software understands. And I've programmed it just like any other turning tool path. We take a look at that inside simulation. Now, in this case, I've defined it as just an insert, and I'll get into that once I show you actual tool definitions. But for now, let's just say that that represents the insert of my insert drill, and it's basically just boring it like always. Okay. So how is all of this possible inside SolidCAM? Well, it's really more on the tool definition side, because as you saw, the operations themselves, the toolpaths themselves, are just the same as you've always done: drilling and a turning cycle. The only thing different in terms of the toolpath is the center shift. If the tool, the insert drill, is large enough that you can get away with doing just a simple one pass sort of tool path, then we can do a center shift. Now, if you're using the smaller tool like we had here, let's take a look at how I defined all the tools, but specifically that previous tool. So for tool 1, which is the one we're using in those last operations, it is a 1/2 inch drill, but it's also a 1/2 inch boring bar. And I actually gave them the same tool number. When we post out the code, they have that same T code. It's, in this case, T0101. Both of them come out as T0101. So when you set up this single tool in your turret on your machine, you can basically just set it up once and then call it twice. Tool 1 for the drilling and tool 1 for the turning. And the definitions are relatively simple. The drilling, like you saw before, I just said a 1/2 inch drill with a 180 tip, and that's it for the drill. Everything else is just length and total overall length and that sort of thing. For the second tool 1, the one that I'm using as a boring bar, I've actually just defined it as the insert only, because in this case, I'm just doing turning. I know the size of my insert drill. I'm not really worried about collisions or anything like that. I'm just finding something that approximates the tool. In this case, it is just an S-type insert. The 90 degrees, I've set the insert angle to 0, so you can see here it's essentially just the insert itself, just floating in space, because I set it as insert only. The rest of these dimensions, I'm not too concerned, because again, in terms of turning, I'm really just worried about this tip. So it is a square insert at 90 degrees. It represents the tip of the tool, the insert drill that I'm trying to use. That's essentially how I got away with using it in a turning operation, because these definitions are different. One's a drill, and one is technically a turning tool, an internal turning tool. So as I said, once I post out this code, it basically comes out with the same code, T0101, T0101. So that's how you can use one tool for both drilling and turning, or in this case, boring. Any questions of this or anything else from SolidCAM, you can always give us a call at 1-866-975-1115, extension 2. You can send us your questions or your parts via the ticket system at solidcamsupport.com, or stay tuned for the rest of the videos on this YouTube channel. Thanks for watching.